The great chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of glass and metal. Inside, representatives from 7 ancient species sat in a circle, their forms casting strange shadows under the blue lights. Quan stood near the human platform, his dark suit looking plain compared to the decorated robes and armor worn by the others. He had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now, and he still felt like a child in a room full of grandparents. Beside him, Yuna kept her eyes on the room. She wore her military uniform, though she no longer commanded ships. Her job now was to watch and to remember everything. The silver pins on her collar marked her as a former captain, and some of the alien delegates had learned to recognize what that meant. Humans who wore those pins had seen real combat. The Vorten delegate rose from its seat. Its body looked like a mantis made of bronze metal, with 4 arms that moved in patterns while it spoke. The translator device made its clicking sounds into words everyone could understand. We call this session to order. The Council has determined a new threat exists beyond the outer rim. All member species must contribute to our collective defense. Quan felt his stomach tighten. Collective defense usually meant someone wanted something from someone else. He glanced at Yuna, who raised one eyebrow slightly. She felt it too. The Vorten continued. Each species will provide 40% of military assets and 30% of resource production to a centralized council fleet. This begins immediately. The room erupted in whispers and chirps and sounds Quan had no name for. 40% was not a request. It was a demand that would cripple most species' ability to defend themselves. The other delegates began pulling out data tablets, calculating what this would cost them. Quan raised his hand. The gesture looked strange here, where most species had tentacles or too many fingers. But the Council had learned human customs. Ambassador Quan of Earth, the Vorten acknowledged. I request 48 hours to consult with my government. This decision affects billions of humans across 3 colony worlds. The bird-like creature in the central seat leaned forward. The XEMR had feathers that shimmered like oil on water and eyes that never seemed to blink. It had led the Council for 200 years, which meant nothing to a species that lived for 1,000. Consultation is not necessary, the XEMR said, and its voice sounded like wind through hollow bones. Young species often fail to understand the urgency of Council decisions. Humanity has been in space for what? 300 years? We have maintained order for 50,000. You will comply like the others. Yuna's hand moved to her data tablet. The motion was small, barely noticeable, but her knuckles went white as she gripped it. Quan knew that look. She was angry, but she would not show it. Not yet. With respect, Quan said, keeping his voice calm. Earth has always honored Council agreements. We ask only for time to prepare our response properly. The XEMR's feathers ruffled. The response is simple. You agree and submit your fleet manifests within 1 cycle, or you refuse and face the consequences. Another delegate spoke up. Nari represented the Delphi, an aquatic species that lived in underwater cities. Her tank suit made self-bubbling sounds as she moved. Perhaps we might allow some flexibility. The humans have proven themselves reliable partners. Reliable, yes, but inexperienced, the Vorten said. They do not understand what lurks in the dark spaces between stars. We do. We require their ships and resources for the greater good. Quan looked around the chamber. Every other species was already preparing to comply. Some looked resigned. Others looked afraid. None looked willing to challenge the Council's demand. I must insist on consultation time, Quan said. Deximar stood, and its full height made it tower over the others. You insist on nothing, Ambassador. This Council has peacekeepers stationed throughout the galaxy. We can enforce compliance if needed. Your colony on New Sol is quite isolated. is it not? Only 3 defensive platforms. It would be unfortunate if we needed to ensure your cooperation through more direct means. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Yuna stood up now, her chair scraping against the floor. The sound made several delegates turn their heads. "Are you threatening human civilians?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, but it carried across the chamber. "I am explaining reality to a species too young to grasp it naturally," Dexiamar replied. "You have 12 hours to submit your compliance plan. After that, we will assume refusal and act accordingly." Quan took a slow breath. He had been taught to be diplomatic, to find common ground, to build bridges. But right now, all he wanted was to tell these ancient beings exactly what he thought of their demands. Instead, he nodded once. "I will contact Earth immediately." "See that you do," Dexiamar said, settling back into its seat. "This session is adjourned. We reconvene in 12 hours. The delegates began to file out. Nari paused near Quan as she passed. Her voice was barely a whisper through her translator. "Be careful. They have made examples of defiant species before." Entire world silenced. Then she was gone, her tank suit humming as it moved. Quan and Yuna walked back to the human quarters in silence. Only when the door sealed behind them did Yuna speak. "They have no idea what they are asking for." Quan sat down heavily. "They think we are weak, new, easy to push around." "We need to contact Admiral Tay," Yuna said. She was already activating the secure communication link. "And tell him what? That we are being forced to hand over nearly half our fleet?" Yuna smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Tell him it is time for Twilight Protocol." Quan stared at her. He had heard that phrase before, years ago, in a classified briefing he barely remembered. "I do not have clearance for that." "You are about to," Yuna said. The communication screen flickered to life, and Admiral Tay's weathered face appeared. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. "I have been expecting your call," he said. "The Council made its demand?" "Yes," Quan said. "They want 40% of everything. And they threatened our colonies." Tay nodded slowly. "Then we have no choice. Stand by for a priority transmission from Earth. You will receive new instructions within 24 hours. "What kind of instructions?" "The kind that will change everything, Ambassador. The kind we hoped we would never need to use." The screen went dark. Quan looked at Yuna. "What have we been hiding?" "Not hiding," she said softly. "Protecting. There are things in this galaxy older than the Council, and humanity found them first." The secure room in the human quarters had walls that blocked every known form of surveillance. Quan sat at the small table, watching the encryption code cycle on the screen. Yuna stood by the door, her arms crossed, waiting. The screen finally cleared, and a woman's face appeared. Hana looked young for someone who ran Earth's entire intelligence network, but Quan knew she had been doing this job for 15 years. Her eyes held the weight of secrets that could break civilizations. "Ambassador Quan, Captain Yuna, I am sorry it has come to this." "Director Hana," Quan said. "Admiral Tay said you would brief us on something called Twilight Protocol." "Yes, but first, you need to understand the history. What I am about to tell you is known to fewer than 20 people in all of human space." She paused. 150 years ago, Earth sent out the first deep exploration ships. The official records say they mapped nearby sectors, found resources, established trade routes. "That is what I learned in school," Quan said. "The official records are incomplete," Hana continued. "The truth is that humanity mapped 70% of the galaxy in 30 years. We moved fast and quiet. We did not announce our findings. We just observed and recorded." Yuna shifted her weight. Quan noticed she was not surprised by any of this. During those explorations, Hana said, we found something extraordinary. Ancient structures scattered throughout space. Massive stations, each one 100 kilometers across. They were dormant, had been for millions of years. We called them the progenitor network. Quan felt his mouth go dry. The progenitors? The species the Council claims to have descended from? The Council lies, Hana said flatly. They did not descend from the progenitors. They just found a few broken pieces of their technology and built religions around it. But we found the actual network. 10,000 active stations, all connected, all functional. Just sleeping. The screen changed to show an image. The station looked like a dark sphere covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move. Even in the still image, it felt alive and dangerous. Each station, Hana continued, contains more firepower than the entire Council fleet combined. We have spent the last century and a half studying them, learning their systems, understanding their purpose. And the Council does not know, Quan said slowly. Correct. We kept it secret for one simple reason. If the Council knew we controlled this kind of power, they would see us as a threat. They would unite against us. There would be war. Yuna finally spoke. I was there when we found the first one. I was a junior officer on the survey ship Discovery. We thought it was a dead moon until our scans showed the energy signatures inside. When we got close, it woke up. Just for a moment. Long enough to scan us. Then it went back to sleep. It recognized you? Quan asked. It recognized that we were intelligent, curious, not hostile. The stations were built to defend against something, but also to wait for someone worthy to find them. Hana leaned forward. We spent decades learning the control codes, the activation sequences, every function and system. We built our entire deep space fleet around protecting this secret. And we made a choice. We would not use them unless absolutely necessary. The Council is making it necessary, Quan said. Yes, if we give them 40% of our fleet, we cannot protect the stations anymore. Eventually, other species will stumble across them. The Council will seize them. They will use them to enforce their rule forever. Humanity will lose the one advantage that keeps us safe. Quan stood up and paced the small room. His mind was racing. So what do we do? Activate them? Threaten the Council? No, Hana said. We demonstrate. Quietly. Subtly. Just enough to make them understand what they are really asking for. She pressed something off screen, and a new file appeared on Quan's tablet. This is your briefing. You will return to the Council chamber tomorrow. When they demand your answer, you will speak one word. Just one word. Quan opened the file. Inside was a single page with a single word written on it. Twilight, he read aloud. That word is the activation code for demonstration mode. When you speak it, 1,000 stations will power up simultaneously across the galaxy. They will not fire. They will not threaten. They will simply appear on every sensor, every display, every monitoring station in Council space. For exactly 1 hour. Then they will go dark again. The Council will know we have them, Yuna said. Yes, and they will understand that we have always had them. That we could have demanded tribute from them. That we could have ruled this entire galaxy. But we chose not to. We chose peace, partnership. We chose to be strong enough to protect ourselves, but humble enough not to dominate others. Quan sat back down. The weight of this knowledge felt like a physical thing pressing on his chest. And if they attack us anyway? If they decide to destroy Earth before we can use the stations, then we speak a different word, Hana said quietly. And the stations go to full combat mode. But I do not believe it will come to that. The Council is arrogant, but they are not stupid. When they see the network, they will understand. Understand what? That humanity is not a young species stumbling in the dark. We are the species that found the keys to the galaxy and chose not to turn them. We are the ones who could have been conquerors and chose to be partners instead. That kind of restraint is more frightening than any weapon. The screen flickered. You have your orders, Ambassador. Return to the Council. Make them believe you are struggling with the decision. Let them think they have won. Then, when they push you for the final time, say the word. Just the word. Just the word, Hada confirmed. The rest will happen automatically. Good luck, Ambassador. Earth is counting on you. The screen went dark. Quan and Yuna sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Quan spoke. Did you ever want to use them? The stations? Did you ever think about what humanity could do with that kind of power? Yuna looked at him. Every day for 20 years. But then I remember why we kept them secret. Power like that corrupts. It changes you. The moment we use it to conquer, we become exactly like the Council. Maybe worse. But using it to defend ourselves? That is different. That is necessary. The Council is making us show our strength because they do not believe we have any. Tomorrow we teach them otherwise. Quan looked down at the word on his tablet. Such a simple word. Such enormous consequences. Do you think it will work? Yes, Yuna said. Because the Council has never met a species like us before. They have never encountered someone who had the power to rule and chose not to. It will terrify them more than any army. Good, Quan said. He stood up and straightened his suit. Then let us go terrify them. Outside the window, stars glittered in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, 10,000 ancient stations waited in silence, waiting for one word. One simple word to wake them from their long sleep. Tomorrow, that word would change everything. The council chamber felt different when Quan entered it the second time. The air seemed heavier, charged with expectation and barely hidden threats. Every delegate had already submitted their compliance plans. The holographic displays showed fleet manifests, resource allocations, transfer schedules. Everyone except humanity had fallen in line. Quan took his place on the human platform. Yuna stood beside him, her face showing nothing. They had spent the last 11 hours preparing for this moment. Now all they could do was wait. Vexiamar called the session to order with a sharp sound like breaking glass. We reconvened to address the final matter. Ambassador Quan, has Earth made its decision? We are still reviewing the requirements, Quan said carefully. The Vorten delegate made a clicking noise that translated as laughter. Still reviewing? Every other species completed their submissions in hours. What is there to review? The impact on our civilian population. The defensive gaps it would create. The logistics of moving 40% of our fleet. Those are not your concerns, Vexiamar said. Your concern is compliance. Nothing more. Nari's voice came from her tank suit, gentle but urgent. Perhaps we might grant them a few more hours. The humans have always honored their agreements. They will honor this one too, said Szeth, the reptilian commander of the Council's peacekeeping forces. His scales were dark green, almost black, and his eyes were the color of old blood. Or we will help them understand what happens to species who defy this council. Quan noticed something odd. Despite their harsh words, several delegates kept glancing at their personal displays. Szeth, in particular, seemed distracted, his clawed fingers tapping commands into a data screen that only he could see. What is wrong, Commander? Quan asked. Szeth's head snapped up. Nothing is wrong. You seem concerned about something. I am concerned that we are wasting time on a species too primitive to grasp basic instructions. But Szeth's eyes went back to his screen almost. Immediately, Yuna leaned close to Quan and whispered, "They're deep space sensors. They are picking up anomalies. Small energy spikes in distant sectors. The stations are running self-diagnostics, preparing to activate. They cannot know what they are seeing, Quan whispered back. No, but they know something is wrong. HFY stood, spreading its wings in a display of dominance. Enough delays. Ambassador Quan, you will submit Earth's compliance plan now, or we will proceed with enforcement actions. What kind of enforcement? The kind that makes examples, the Warden said. You have 3 colony worlds. New Sol has a population of 2 million. Very isolated. Only 3 defensive platforms. It would be regrettable if an accident occurred there. Quan felt ice in his veins. They were threatening civilians. Not soldiers, not ships, but families. Children. People who had no part in any of this. You would attack a civilian colony? His voice stayed level, but his hands clenched into fists. We would occupy it. For its own protection, of course. Until Earth sees reason. HFY's feathers shimmered with colors that Quan had learned meant satisfaction. Our peacekeepers are already moving into position. They will arrive at New Sol in 72 hours. Nari made a sound like water being poured too fast. This is too far. The humans deserve time to consider. The humans deserve nothing but what we choose to give them. HFY snapped. They are barely more than children playing with starships. They need to learn their place in this galaxy. Zeth looked up from his screen again. The fleet is ready to move on your command. Excellent. HFY turned its full attention to Quan. You have one final opportunity. Ambassador, submit, or watch your colonies become council territories. Quan looked around the chamber. Most delegates would not meet his eyes. They had seen this before. The council crushing someone who dared to resist. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked relieved it was not happening to them. None looked willing to help. May I make one statement before I give Earth's response? Quan asked. Make it brief. I want to be absolutely clear about what is happening here. You are demanding nearly half of our military strength and a third of our resources. When we ask for time to prepare, you threaten our civilians. When we express concern, you mock us for being young. You call this cooperation, but it looks like conquest. Call it whatever helps you sleep, HFY said. But you will comply. Quan took a slow breath. He thought about Hana's words. About the stations waiting in the dark. About the choice humanity had made 150 years ago. They could have revealed their power then. Could have demanded respect. Could have forced the galaxy to bow. But they had chosen differently. Now the council was forcing their hand. I am ready to give Earth's response, Quan said. The chamber fell silent. Every delegate leaned forward. Even the translator devices seemed to hold their breath. Before I do, Quan continued, I want you to understand something. Humanity has lived by one principle since we reached the stars. We believe in partnership, in mutual respect, in building together rather than taking from each other. How touching, the Vorton said. Now submit your compliance plan. We also believe, Quan said, his voice growing harder, that strength does not need to be constantly proven. That true power is knowing when not to use it. That the mark of civilization is choosing peace, even when you could choose war. HFY's feathers began to droop with impatience. Your philosophy is irrelevant. Submit or face the consequences. Quan looked at Yuna. She gave him the smallest nod. Very well, he said. Earth's response is this. He stood straight, his voice carrying clearly across the chamber. Twilight. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. HFY began to make a sound like laughter. Is that supposed to mean something? Is this a human joke? Then every holographic display in the chamber flickered. Zeth's screen went bright red. Alarms started sounding on his console. What? What is this? Other delegates' displays began showing the same thing. Emergency alerts. Energy signatures appearing across the galaxy. Massive ones. Thousands of them. Impossible, the Vorton whispered. The main chamber display activated on its own, showing a star map of the galaxy. Red dots began appearing across it like drops of blood on white cloth. 1 dot. 10 dots. 100. 1,000. Each one marking an energy source more powerful than anything in the Council's databases. What have you done? Desimar demanded. Quan said nothing. He just watched as the ancient stations woke up after millions of years of sleep. Outside the chamber window, something blocked out the stars. Everyone turned to look. A sphere of dark metal hung in space. So close they could see patterns moving across its surface like living circuits. It was enormous, dwarfing the Council station like a moon next to a pebble. Energy rippled across its hull in waves of blue and silver light. One of the progenitor stations had positioned itself right outside their window, and it was staring at them. Nari's voice was barely a whisper. The progenitors. You found them. All of them. Not found, Una said quietly. We have controlled them for 150 years. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouting in a dozen languages. Alarms blaring. Zeth frantically trying to contact his fleet. Desimar standing frozen, its feathers flat against its body in a display of pure shock. Quan waited for the noise to die down. Then he spoke again, his voice cutting through the panic. Now, would you like to discuss tribute? Or shall we talk about partnership instead? The silence that followed was absolute. The progenitor station outside the window hummed with barely contained energy. Its surface patterns moved like slow lightning, creating shadows that danced across the council chamber. Every delegate stared at it with different expressions. Fear, wonder, disbelief, rage. Desimar found its voice first. This is a trick. Some human deception. Those cannot be real progenitor technology. Would you like me to have one of them fire? Quan asked calmly. I can request a demonstration. There is an empty asteroid field, 3 light years from here. We could show you what one beam does to solid rock. Zeth was pulling up tactical data, his claws moving faster than Quan had ever seen. Impossible. My sensors show. This cannot be right. Each of these stations outputs more energy than our entire home fleet. And there are thousands of them. 10,000, to be exact, Una said. Positioned at every strategic location in the galaxy. Around every council homeworld. Every major trade route. Every military staging area. We have had them mapped and ready for 150 years. The Vorton delegates' antennae were vibrating rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. You have been hiding this since first contact? Since you joined the council? We chose not to reveal them, Quan said. There is a difference between hiding and protecting. A new hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. A woman materialized, her image crisp and clear. Jin was Earth's civilian oversight chair, responsible for maintaining checks on military power. She was old enough to have gray hair, but young enough to stand straight and proud. Council members, Jin said, let me explain what you are seeing. The progenitor network was built millions of years ago by a species we still do not fully understand. They left it dormant, waiting. When humanity began exploring deep space, we found the first station by accident. It woke up, scanned our ship, and determined we were intelligent enough to be trusted with the access codes. Lies, Desimar said. But its voice lacked conviction. We spent 30 years finding all the stations. Another century learning how to control them. We could have used them to conquer the galaxy. To demand tribute from every species. To build an empire that would have lasted forever. Jin paused. We chose not to. We chose to be part of this council as equals, to share technology, to trade freely, to help defend against real threats. And you kept this secret because... The Vorten asked. Because we knew how you would react, Jin said simply. You would see us as a threat. You would unite against us. There would be war, and millions would die. We preferred peace. Nari moved forward in her tank suit. But now you reveal them. Why now? Quan turned to face her. Because the council has proven it cannot be trusted with knowledge of power. You demand tribute. You threaten civilians. You treat partnership as conquest. This is what the council does when it thinks someone is weak. Imagine what you would do if you controlled the progenitor network. Silence fell over the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. We would use it responsibly, Deximar said. But even it sounded unsure. Would you? Yuna asked. You just threatened to occupy a colony of 2 million people because we asked for time to think. You mock us for being young while demanding we hand over our ability to defend ourselves. That is not responsibility. That is tyranny. Zeth looked up from his tactical display. His face had gone pale, which was impressive for a reptile. These stations, they are all active right now? No, Quan said. They are in demonstration mode. They are visible to your sensors. They are showing their power signatures. But they are not armed. Not yet. Not yet? Dexiamar repeated. If we wanted to make threats, we would have done so already, Jin said. The stations will remain in this state for exactly 1 hour. Then they will power down and vanish from your sensors again. But you will know they are there. You will know we control them. And you will understand what humanity could have done, but chose not to. Another delegate spoke up. A small creature that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light. What do you want from us? Nothing, Quan said. We want you to understand what you were asking for. You wanted 40% of our fleet. That would have weakened our ability to protect these stations. Eventually, other species would find them. What do you think would happen then? The chamber was silent. Someone would take them, Nari said quietly, and they would use them to rule. Yes, Jin said. The council. Or the Vortens. Or someone worse. And the galaxy would suffer for it. So we kept them secret. We stayed strong enough to protect them. And we hoped we would never need to reveal them. But we forced your hand, Dexiamar said. Its feathers had changed color again, now showing patterns Quan recognized as shame. Yes, you left us no choice. Either we revealed our strength, or we lost the ability to protect the greatest power in the galaxy. Zeth closed his tactical display. My fleet is standing down. There is no point in fighting. Even if we brought every ship in council space here, we could not defeat a single one of those stations. We do not want to fight, Quan said. We never did. We just want to be treated as equals, as partners, not as children to be ordered around. The Vorten delegate made a sound like grinding metal. What happens now? Jin's hologram brightened. Now we propose a new framework. True mutual defense. No tribute. No demands. Each species contributes what they can afford, not what others demand. Decisions made together. Threats faced together. Equals. And the progenitor network? Dexiamar asked. Remains under human control, Yuna said firmly. But we will share our research. Teach you what we have learned. Work together to understand their true purpose. Their true purpose? Nari leaned forward. You know why they were built? We have theories, Jin said. The stations are not just weapons. They are watchers, guardians. They were placed to defend against something. We have detected signs of it. Far beyond the rim. Still centuries away. But it is coming. The chamber erupted in whispers again. You see? Quan said. Your tribute demand was not entirely wrong. There is a threat out there. We do need to prepare. But we will prepare as partners. With human ingenuity, council resources, and progenitor technology working together. Not with one species dominating the others. The XEMR looked around the chamber. Its feathers were still showing shame, but now Quan also saw something else. Respect. I withdraw the tribute demand, Deximar said. Completely, unconditionally. As do I, said the Vorten. One by one, each delegate voiced agreement. Good, Jin said. We will reconvene tomorrow to begin drafting a new charter. One that treats all species fairly. For now, I suggest you return to your homeworlds and explain what has happened. Your people will have questions. The hologram faded. Quan looked out at the progenitor station. As he watched, its energy patterns began to dim. The countdown had started. In less than an hour, it would vanish from sensors, returning to its long sleep, but the council would never forget it was there. One word, Nari said. Approaching Quan. You spoke one word and changed the entire galaxy. We spoke the truth, Quan said. The council needed to see that strength is not about always using your power. It is about knowing when to reveal it. Nari's translator made a sound like gentle rain. We have been fools, treating you like children when you held the keys to everything. You could not have known, Eunice said. We made sure of it. Still, on behalf of the Delphi, I apologize. We should have stood with you against the tribute. You warned us, Quan said. That took courage. The XEMR approached last. The ancient being looked smaller somehow, diminished by the revelation. I will resign my position, it said. I have failed the council. No, Quan said. Use this as a lesson. Lead us into this new era. Show us that old species can learn new wisdom. The XEMR's feathers shifted colors again. Surprise. Gratitude. You would trust me after what I did? We all make mistakes, Quan said. What matters is what we do next. The station outside the window finally went dark, disappearing into the black of space, like it had never been there. But everyone in that chamber knew the truth now. Humanity had been strong all along. They just chose not to prove it until they had no other choice. The council chamber looked different the next morning. The same blue lights cast the same shadows, but something fundamental had changed. The delegates sat in their places, but no one looked arrogant anymore. Even Deximar kept its feathers folded close, showing humility. Quan stood at the human platform with a data tablet in his hands. Beside him, Soon prepared holographic displays showing the new charter humanity had drafted overnight. The legal expert had barely slept, working with Earth's best minds to create something fair. "Thank you for reconvening so quickly," Quan began. "I know many of you spent the night explaining to your homeworlds what happened. That cannot have been easy." The Vorten delegate made a clicking sound that translated as rueful laughter. "My government demanded I return immediately for questioning. They could not believe what I told them about the stations. Mine threatened to replace me," said the jellyfish delegate, "until I showed them the sensor data." Nari's tank suit bubbled softly. "The Delphi Council is in shock. We have been members of this council for 12,000 years. We thought we knew everything about the galaxy." "No one knows everything," Quan said. "That is why we need each other. That is why we are proposing a new framework." Soon activated the displays. Text appeared in the air, written in all the council languages simultaneously. "The new Mutual Defense Charter," she announced, "built on principles of equality, voluntary cooperation, and shared responsibility." She walked through the key points. No species would be forced to contribute beyond their means. All decisions required consensus, not majority rule. Disputes would be resolved through mediation, not threats. Defense commitments would be based on capability, not demands. What about the progenitor network? Zeth asked. He had spent the night reviewing tactical data, and dark circles showed under his eyes. Article 7 covers that, Sung said. A new section highlighted. The network remains under human control for security purposes. However, we will establish a joint research program. All species can contribute scientists. All findings will be shared equally. You trust us to study them? Deximar asked. After what we tried to do? We trust that everyone learns from mistakes, Quan said. Besides, we need your help. The stations are incredibly complex. Human scientists have been studying them for 150 years, and we still do not understand half of what they can do. Yuna stepped forward. We also need to address the real threat. The stations were built for a reason. Something is coming from beyond the rim. We have detected energy signatures. Strange readings in deep space. Whatever the progenitors feared, it is still out there. The chamber fell silent. How long do we have? The Vorton asked. Centuries, we think. Maybe longer. But we need to prepare now. That means building a real defense fleet. Not through tribute or conquest. Through cooperation. Jin's hologram appeared again in the center of the chamber. This is why we are proposing the charter. Not because we want to control you. Because we need your help. Humanity is good at some things. Engineering, exploration, adapting quickly. But you all have strengths we lack. She gestured to different delegates as she spoke. The Vortons have the best manufacturing capabilities in the galaxy. The Delphi understand energy systems better than anyone. Zeth's people have tactical knowledge spanning thousands of years. We need all of it. Working together. And if we refuse? Dexiamar asked quietly. If some species choose not to join this new charter, then they do not join, Jin said simply. We are not building an empire. We are building an alliance. Those who want to be part of it are welcome. Those who do not can go their own way. But without protection, Zeth said. Without access to the network, yes. But we would not attack them. Would not threaten them. Would not demand anything from them. They would simply be outside the alliance. Nari spoke up. What about enforcement? What if someone breaks the charter? Soon pulled up another section. Article 12. Any violation is investigated by a neutral committee. Punishments are proportional. Minor violations result in mediation. Major violations can lead to suspension from the alliance. Severe violations like attacking another member would trigger collective defense. With the progenitor network backing it, the Vorton said. Yes, Quan admitted. But only as a last resort. The goal is not to threaten. It is to ensure fairness. Daxiamar stood slowly. Its ancient body showed the weight of millennia, but its eyes were clear. I have led this council for 200 years. In that time, we have maintained order through strength and authority. We believed that was the only way. It paused, feathers shifting to show colors Quan had never seen before. We were wrong. The other delegates stirred. The humans have shown us a different path. Deximar continued. They had the power to rule us all. Instead, they chose to wait. To watch. To hope we would be better than we were. We disappointed them. But they are giving us another chance. It turned to Quan. I support this charter. The Avian Collective will sign it. One by one. The other delegates stood. The Vorton Collective agrees. The Delphi join willingly. The Reptilian Dominion accepts. Each species voiced their support. When the last one finished, Sung sent the charter to all their data tablets. We will need a few days for your governments to review and approve. But if everyone here agrees in principle, we can begin the transition immediately. What about you, Commander? Nari asked Zeth. You were ready to occupy New Sol yesterday. How do you feel about this new system? Zeth closed his tactical display and looked directly at Yuna. I was following orders. Orders based on the assumption that humans were weak. I see now that assessment was completely wrong. He stood and gave a gesture that Quan recognized as a military salute in his culture. I request permission to meet with Admiral Tay. I want to learn human military philosophy. How you stay strong without becoming tyrants. Yuna returned the salute. Permission granted. The Admiral will be pleased to meet you. The session continued for hours. Details were debated. Language was refined. Concerns were addressed. But the fundamental agreement held. By the time the chamber adjourned, the foundation of a new galactic order had been built. Quan found himself alone in the observation deck later that evening. He stared out at the stars, thinking about how much had changed in just 2 days. Footsteps approached behind him. He did not need to turn to know it was Yuna. We did it, she said softly. We revealed a secret 150 years old in less than 3 seconds, Quan said. I am still not sure that was wise. Would you rather have given them the tribute? No, but there will be consequences. Other species will fear us now. Let them fear us, Yuna said. As long as they also respect us. As long as they understand we could have been monsters and chose to be partners instead. Quan smiled. You sound like Jin. Jin is wise. She understood what most people miss. True power is not making others afraid. It is making them grateful you are on their side. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Quan asked the question that had been bothering him. Do you think it is real? The threat from beyond the rim? Hannah believes it is. So do our best scientists. The progenitors did not build 10,000 weapon stations for nothing. Then we have centuries of work ahead of us. Yes, but now we will do it together. With all the council species contributing. With the progenitor technology helping us understand what is coming. Yuna placed a hand on his shoulder. That is what you gave the galaxy today. Not fear, hope. Quan thought about that. About the charter waiting for approval. About Zeth wanting to learn from human military philosophy. About the XCMR admitting the council had been wrong. One word had changed everything. But it was not the word itself that mattered. It was what the word represented. The choice to reveal strength only when necessary. The decision to build rather than destroy. The belief that partnership was stronger than conquest. 5 years from now, Quan said, what do you think will be different? Yuna smiled. 5 years from now, the council will be a real alliance. Species will contribute based on ability, not demands. Research teams will be uncovering progenitor secrets. Defense fleets will be preparing for the real threat. And humanity will still be here, protecting the network, sharing what we know. Still not conquering. Still not conquering, she confirmed. Because that was never the point. The point was surviving together. Building something better than what came before. A message appeared on Quan's tablet. The first government had approved the charter. The Delphi, unsurprisingly. Nari had pushed it through her council in record time. More messages followed over the next hour. The Vortons, the Reptilian Dominion, the Avian Collective, species that had existed for tens of thousands of years, agreeing to a charter written by humans who had been in space for only 3 centuries. They are actually doing it, Quan said, watching the approvals come in. Of course they are. They saw the alternative. They saw what we could have done. What we chose not to do. That kind of restraint is more persuasive than any weapon. The last approval came through as the station's artificial day cycle shifted to night. All 7 species had signed. The new Mutual Defense Charter was now official. Quan thought about sending a message to Earth, to Hannah and Admiral Tay. to all the people who had kept the secret for so long. But he decided it could wait until morning.